Why did you decide to run for Congress, but more importantly, why did you decide to run on the Republican ticket?
I've been a Republican. Of course, I'm going to run as a Republican. I have conservative values, conservative views, but I decided to run for District 7 in particular for Congress because that is a neighborhood that I've been working in for the past 7 years. So I went in, took some videos of the trash and just all the blight, and I thought, you know what, they don't seem to be getting anything done leadership-wise, so I wanted to make sure that these people get some help, and I thought the only way I can do that is to run myself.
I want to say you are maybe a vocal supporter of the president. What have you seen from a policy standpoint that you like that could be replicated into Baltimore City?
That's a great question. So no one's actually asked me that, so thank you. So I actually talked to Pastor Scott, who's with the Trump administration, and he's been talking about the urban revitalization program along with their opportunity zones. Now, I would do a simple little carve out for the opportunity zones. It's similar to the empowerment zones that Bill Clinton did in 1994, but it could revitalize this entire city. You know, I know a lot of times people look at Baltimore and they think there's two tails to Baltimore. You see one that's full of blight, and the other side is Harbor East, which is beautiful, high-rise. Everything that's been upkept. Resources go to Harbor East. You go to the Inner Harbor, you don't see trash or anything lying around. So I know that it's possible. I know we have the resources and I know we can do it. And I love that Pastor Scott has reached out and talked about maybe having me come on board to look further into it.
So as a member of Congress, your role's a little bit different and you're not dealing with, per se, the day-to-day happenings in Baltimore City. So even though that said, how would you bring light to the city and what would you do to help the city?
Actually, I think, honestly, a Congress member can do a little bit more, right? We should be able to do both. We should be able to fix our district and do what we need to do on Capitol Hill. And so for me, I know that there has been millions of dollars in federal grant money that has been poured into Baltimore, Baltimore City, especially the North Corridor. And that is where the riots happened after Freddie Gray in 2015. In 2016, there was federal funds over $23 million that was poured into that neighborhood that they still have not seen. No one seems to know where this money is. So I believe as a member of Congress, I can actually ask for an audit. I can see where this money is, where it went, why it wasn't spent on these things. And it'll be good because it puts me right in between both the federal side and the local level.
Where do you see the biggest misplacement of money, that it's going into something just probably is just not working, and where can that money be better else spent?
So I think a lot of it is accountability. So we see even with the Baltimore City school system, lots of federal money ends up there, and for some reason we get no results with that. We have teachers that are still complaining that they're not being paid enough, and then we have students that can barely read, write, or do basic math. So what are we spending on per pupil? We're actually spending more per pupil than New York City. Now their test scores are phenomenal compared to ours, and so we need to find out why is it that these kids aren't being educated. You know, there is something going on in the inner dealings, and we need to figure it out. The school board, there was, I don't know if you saw about 2 years ago, there was light shine on the fact that there were no heat in so many schools in Baltimore City, right? So everyone asked for Mayor Pugh to do something about it, talk to the school board, figure out what they're doing wrong, dismantle the school board if need be. And what she did is she added 4 more seats to that school board. She didn't go in and say, hey, where's the problem? She just added more people, thinking more oversight should be what we need. That's not what we need. We need to figure out what's going on with the people that we have, not add more people to the problem.
You do have your critics, as every public figure does. How do you prepare yourself from a mental standpoint to stay elevated and to rise above that? Specifically when it comes to your race and perhaps your gender, if there is somebody, saying that you're a pawn for the Republican Party.
So that happens a lot, right? So at this point, I think I am very good at staying away from the trolls. I've been with the media, in the media light for about 5 years now, and so I've always got pushback, especially when I did a hit or a segment. People would say, why would you, encourage these policies from the Republican Party to keep being pushed out? And I'm saying because unfortunately people don't seem to understand, especially in some minority communities, the fact that the Republican Party gives you a little bit more freedom, right? So they're more about less government and power for the people. And I think if we really focused on that, people could understand that when you get these social handouts, you can only go as far as those social handouts allow you to go. When you can take control of your own destiny, you can do so much more. And so I would explain that to people and help them understand why I support the Republican Party and their values.
Do you think you're likely a target because you are a black woman running as a Republican? Do you get a lot of hit back on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And that, I blame mainstream media, for that, because right now we are a target. Everyone's so anti-Trump these days. They say, okay, if you're black and you're a woman, how could you be for President Trump? But I'm not looking for a president to make me feel good inside, right? I'm looking for a president to actually put out policies and represent our country in a way that we can thrive as an entire country, So I'm not here, looking for someone to say, oh, it's going to be okay, the snowflake syndrome that people have, but we'll see what happens. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get hits. They're going to be low hits, but I'm ready.
Baltimore City is overwhelmingly Democratic. There hasn't been a Republican mayor since the 1960s.
Yeah.
And you're running in District 7. There hasn't even been a faction of Republicanism since 1837, so about 2 centuries. So how do you expect voters who are on the fence to switch over maybe and to even consider a Republican running in that district?
So I plan to keep up what I've been doing for the past probably year or so, which is being in the community, talking to people face to face and saying, look, here's where I can help. Here's where I can make the difference. And I would say, when you go out and vote, I'm not going to tell you what to think or what to do. But when you go out and vote, just think about who's that person that can give you a better quality of life. Because at this point, that's what we need. I mean, we can see 4 generations in West Baltimore and some places in South Baltimore alone that have been on public assistance. I want to be able to open people's eyes and say, you know what? You don't need to depend on the government for anything. You're strong. You can do this. You're hardworking. You know that you got this. And so maybe it's just a confidence boost that I have to go and give someone, and I think they'll understand that. And like I said, I've been in the neighborhood. People have been saying, we do want to change. What do we do to make a change? And, like President Trump said when he raced, what do you have to lose? That's a great question.
Kimberly Klacik, running for District 7 of Baltimore City. Thank you so much.
Thank you.